Well, back with another small cap interview. All our interviews at smallcapinterviews.com. I'm your host, Jim Gordon. One of my favorites is back. He is the president and CEO of The Market Mindset and themarketmindset.ca. Andrew O'Donnell joins us. Welcome, sir. Thank you. I'm really glad to have you here because we haven't talked since, well, over a year. A lot has happened. We've run into each other a couple times in various establishments where they serve, drinks and things. But anyway, I want to talk to you and get your thoughts first on the hits and misses of 2023. We're kind of just out of that year. What were your thoughts of the year overall?
It was a challenging year for us, that is for sure.
Yeah.
We always like to be straight up and honest with people. And you heard it across the board here, even at all the shows, is that if you have a very heavy junior mining portfolio, or even just the portfolio of your junior mine, it took a big hit.
Sure.
Except for uranium, if you'd picked well with uranium and nuclear. But for the most part, everything is down quite a bit. Some lithium deals did quite well as well. Mm-hmm. But with that negativity, which a lot of people would go, oh my, that's tough, is that there's a lot of pluses out of that. Is that we all know that mining is cyclical, but we also know that the narrative around it is shifting. So maybe it's not as fast as we'd like,
sure,
but we see the tone and the conversations coming out of not even the Biden administration, but even in Canada, of this absolute critical need for minerals.
Right.
And that has been one of the biggest boundaries or gatekeepers of not getting anywhere, has been no real support or no tangible support to let people know we need this to do this.
Right. Interesting. You were at the most recent VRIC, of course, this year, 2024. Walking around, you know everybody there, you're gauging the room, often speaking there. A different vibe, different mood, more upbeat than, say, last year, January 2023?
I felt like it was definitely more upbeat. And actually, there were some faces I didn't recognize, which is actually nice. So when I see people that I'm like, oh, they're new, that's also a good sign. I don't think we're there yet, but it's an inkling, but I think next year we're going to see back to what we used to see, like bigger crowds of people.
Okay.
Because this has been a very challenging year for everyone financially, for them to want to say, even though they probably should I be looking for good value in stocks that have just been punched out?
Yeah.
That's what you should do, but it's very tough to reconcile that whenever people have mortgages coming up and interest rates are high and they're not sure which way things are going in the market, and there's lots of challenging things happening. There's 40 elections going on in 2024. Yeah. Of course, the one we all know, down south. So there's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
And that though is the time to strike and to look at this overall theme of mining and the critical metals. And the announcements from different government agencies, whether it's BC, who had an announcement, Quebec, and even at COP28, U.S. and Canada with nuclear, all of these are big signs that this is happening, it's moving forward, and people should be snooping around and seeing what they like.
What are you thinking for 2024? Is a continued trend of optimism? You said next year will be even better. VRIC.
Cautiously optimistic.
Well, that's okay. That's a good mindset to be. Yeah.
For us, we are fully committed with still energy and AI, and not the dreams of AI of doing all the things that people think they're going to do in the movies, but just of productivity and its application in work, especially, and productivity, logistics, and whatnot. There'll be a big change with that, and then people are paying more attention now, and we see the government's getting the messaging out that where will we get these critical metals from? If we're going to have all these battery factories, are we going to rely solely on China? Like, how is that relationship?
We did an interview recently in this round of interviews where we were talking about that exactly. So what's the point of building a factory with X car company if you don't have the batteries to be part of the equation?
And you don't want to be beholden to somewhere as well.
Especially
in this current environment.
Yeah, exactly. Politically and everything else. Yeah. Hey, let's talk about the market mindset. It's something you've been doing for a while for the people out there that may not know about it. Give us a description of what you're doing there.
So we're a subscription-based company, and we provide lots of narrative on themes that we like. We're looking at the economy, and we'll look at AI, and we'll look at have comment. Because of my background working at Merrill Lynch and RBC, I like to make sometimes whimsical comments about what's happening in the market and whatnot. But we really kind of hone in on this entire theme that energy is the mainstay of any country. So if you can get a handle on that and really harness that, you have a place at the seat, let's just say. And Canada sits in a very unique position, and always has, with oil and gas, that now people are starting to put two and two together, that the amount of critical metals we have here, we're a natural resource country. If we had a good solid plan to move that forward, we have a natural trading partner down south with technology that is, they've got so many battery factories that are building up in the U.S. We've got a number, including Volkswagen and Stellantis and whatnot, another couple in Quebec. It's almost every couple of weeks you hear about one that's popping up. And it's a lot easier to have materials moved from, say, a Quebec mine into Detroit than it is to go have to process, mill in China, sent back. And that also means these oil tankers, that's a big carbon footprint, and all of those things matter. Those, although people get touchy on the ESG, there's going to be a score, but even if you take away that kind of conversation, just knowing if you're cruising around in one of those giant bunker fuel tankers, those things emit a massive amount of carbon and pollution. If we can get that down to a system where we could feed users here in North America alone, there's enough technology and there's enough resources that it could really set the site for decades.
I think that, are you confident that, no one can predict the future, but some try. Are you confident that our government, the Americans, our biggest trading partners, are kind of in synergy on that and moving?
I have very
November could change a lot of things, clearly, but...
I don't have any confidence in this government.
Oh, government, yes. Yes, if I ask you about business, different story, right? Government is that
But random, it's tricky, and I don't mean to be silly about it, but it's tough because it's balancing, especially from if you're a liberal on the left side, is all drilling is bad. So oil and gas is bad, naturally mining is bad.
Of course.
Well, they've backed themselves into a corner going, wait a second, if we want anything in this future, you're still drilling, you're just drilling in a different way. So that is tough for their whole environmental green kind of movement and what they've been teaching in schools and all that. That's going to be tough to reverse that teaching in a generation that thinks that we can't do that. So there's more of an education gulch, almost a ravine that we have to get over. And what we need to see is, and it's going to be tough because it seems like there's chaos in the future, but if there was a time to calm down and find that middle ground and people to see the opportunity and they realize, wait a second, this is what it's going to take to do this transition. Nuclear is the safest and cleanest. We've got Cameco, which is a producer, but they also bought Westinghouse, which means they are also now creating nuclear reactors. So, and that's a Canadian company, which at some point the U.S. is going to go, wait a second, we've got a Canadian company who's got totally vertically integrated in creating all our nuclear reactors. But that's cool as far as being a Canadian, because it shows, we've got Canadian companies that can do this.
And will you see more nuclear going forward? I'm a big fan, I'm not going to lie, just full disclosure. But
absolutely. I don't think this is one of those times like in 2008 where it's a flash in the pan. This is has the potential of being a decades-long run. Because getting permitting, say in the Athabasca, is fairly tough on projects. But I think there's going to be a kind of like a bond laddering approach where you're going to have companies that have easier to produce in situ mining, near-term production to production, and people looking at, okay, which company is in the U.S., say, that's easy to market, that can get going fast and get us enough uranium. But then you have the issue, how many mills do we have? Do we need another mill? All these things are not easy to come to grips with. And actually another thing in regards to that, because in COP28, when the U.S. said that they wanted to basically kind of outshine China with nuclear, or at least advance significantly. I was speaking to someone who is the owner of Curio, which is a molten salt reactor. His name is Rabbi Moskovitz, and he said, well, Andrew, that would take roughly 8 new nuclear project power plants a year moving forward in the U.S. to do that. That's skilled labor, the amount of work to do, that would be huge. But would that be great as far as, say, the infrastructure bill and getting people back to work? That's high-skilled jobs, high-skilled engineers. That you could see how that'd be a decade-end run of encouraging people get into nuclear. We need scientists. We need this. There's a huge opportunity to really kind of forge our future.
I just wish we could think long game.
I know.
Long game.
And it's a problem because there's so much politics involved. That's what's hurting the West the most, is the fact that a lot of people do agree on the same things, but we're also at odds on the strangest things.
Yeah,
which is frustrating.
No, I agree. I think you pegged it too. If somebody could rise up and just say sanity, middle ground here, and get enough people buying that, I think they'd go far.
They'd go far for sure. And I think what's good is with the nuclear is that is starting to happen with the governments realizing on both sides. So whether it's conservative here or liberal, or whether it's Democrat and Republican, they're both on side now for nuclear, and that has an application with AI as well. As Sam Altman was even saying in Davos, he said, "Listen, if you think crypto takes a lot of energy, AI and the pace at which it's going, we are so far behind." So, and that's interesting because it really reestablishes the critical need of energy, and whoever is driving that home is going to be the real player in the future.
And we're going to go out on a prop comedy bit, I think, Andrew, as we both are funny guys. We're talking about inflation. You were given a great gift recently.
Yes, real money here. So this is a $5 billion note from Zimbabwe. So if anyone wants to get an idea of what printing money looks like, I don't know what this is worth currently, and I'd be shocked to see it wouldn't be very much. Now I'm being facetious because this isn't the way we're going.
No.
But let's also keep in mind we've printed trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. So when people wonder, wait, why are things still at a pretty high inflated rate? No one ever wants to talk about in the mainstream news that we've printed all this money and there's such staggering amounts of debt. Canada has printed more in the last few years than its entire origination story of all the prime ministers. It's been a spike that is shocking. And the U.S. is once again, it's getting close to not being able to make interest payments on its own debt. Yeah. So that is very telling in regards to what our rates moving forward will be, because as people know here, when you're looking at redoing your mortgage every 5 years and that's rolling on, it's getting tough on people. And if they let rates stay too high, it'll be absolute financial.
I talked to you off camera before we wrap up that it remained steady, the same. The Bank of Canada did not touch it recently. Do you sense they'll go down?
I think it starts to have to, and that's also for political reasons. I mean, we've got elections coming up. That does matter, even though they're supposed to be independent bodies. It does have an effect, but more importantly, it will have an effect on people. That's the stress, the difference between what you'd hear on a CNN or CNBC, where it's like, times are good, do we have a bull market? The average person is not having that experience.
But is that not what part of maybe one of the several problems President Biden has, is that, but it's about what I'm putting on my kitchen table that I can physically put my hands on.
Yes, for core inflation, they don't consider food, energy, housing, so your critical
the unimportant
needs.
Things.
So all of your critical needs. So, and I mean, and every government does it, so I wouldn't pick on Biden, but they all kind of play around with inflation or whatever rates they choose that they want to focus on for their administration. And that's fine, but we could really just see the average person is struggling, especially in the States. And that is hard because when they hear, it's like being absolutely gaslit when they hear that things are great. Most people don't think that, and that's a problem. And it's in part because they have a very different economic theory. And it's not because they're being deceitful. They just have a very different economic outlook that someone else would absolutely disagree with. And that's a fundamental foundational change that is tough to reconcile. But either way, there's good things that have happened. And luckily, say with the IRA, with the Inflation Reduction Act, there's a lot there for critical metals, for nuclear, for a lot of these projects. So either way, that money is being deployed. And that's a confrontational discussion for many people anyway. But we're okay with that because we need to jumpstart a lot of this and get them. And that level of printing takes time to be absorbed into the economy. So hopefully they'll start to see that it's okay. They'll take the foot off the gas, and then hopefully we'll see a bit more of life settling down a bit.
It is always a pleasure. We don't do this enough. Again, tell our viewers where they can find out more about you and your great site.
Check us out at themarketmindset.ca, and of course on YouTube. We do plenty of interviews and insights and reaction videos. We love feedback, and we love chatting with people. Give us a shout.
And he's been chatting with us. It's Andrew O'Donnell. He's the president and CEO of the Market Mindset. Great to see you, sir.